All right, today we're going to be talking about ridiculous gas prices. I got some audio clips we're going to start off playing. I got one that's kind of short. It's like 3 minutes long, 2.5 minutes. And I got another one that's like almost 20 minutes long. Then we're going to open up the panel. And we're going to talk about gas prices. We'll see who wants to come up live. If not, you can stay in the chat. We'll talk about it. So here's the first clip with Sleepy Joe.
Gas tax for the next 90 days through the busy summer season, busy travel season. Here's what that means. Every time you go to the gas station to fill your tank, the federal government charges an 18-cent tax per gallon of gas that you purchase and a 24-cent tax per gallon of diesel you purchase. It's a tax that's been around for 90 years. It's important because we use it for the Highway Trust Fund to keep our highways going. But what I'm proposing is suspending the federal gas tax without affecting the Highway Trust Fund. And here's how.
Of course, this is a recording from June 29th, 2020. Sleepy Joe explaining what he tried to do over the summer. Of course, we all know it was not done because we had very, very extreme high gas prices in the summer.
How we do that? With the tax revenues up this year and our deficit down over $1.6 trillion this year alone, we'll still be able to fix our highways and bring down prices of gas. We can do both at the same time. By suspending the 18-cent gas tax, federal gas tax, for the next 90 days, we can bring down the price of gas and give families just a little bit of relief.
As you guys know, gas prices did not go down. At the very beginning of the summer, we're paying average $4.60, maybe $5.25 down here in New England. Somewhere in California, they're up at $6, $7. As of right now, today, if I think California, stand me correct if anybody's in the chat, is around $7.50 a gallon per gas.
I call on the companies to pass this along, every penny of this 18-cent reduction to the consumers. There's no time now for profiteering. There are a number of other proposals by Democrats in the House and the Senate, and I hope my call for action can help move those proposals forward as well. But we can also cut gas prices even more in another way. That's why the second action I'm taking is calling on states to either suspend the state gas tax as well or find other ways to deliver some relief. State gas taxes average 30 cents per gallon. Already, some states have acted. In Connecticut and New York, the governors have temporarily suspended their gas tax as well. In Illinois and Colorado, governors delayed theirs to give families a bit more breathing room as well.
All right, so executive order. So if the president wants to go and lower the gas, take the gas tax away for a little bit of time, he's asking the states to take their taxes away for a little bit of time, suspending it. Now, wouldn't he have the right executive order to be able to suspend all gas taxes for every state? Why is he leaving it up to the states to make that decision? What's the sense of that? If he's the president, why can't he overrule? Questions I may have.
In Minnesota, Governor Walz proposes using state budget surpluses to give households a rebate that will help them pay for gas at the pump or other essential needs. I'm calling on more states and local governments to take actions like these.
All right. So, good morning, Robert. I have another audio clip. It's probably about 25 minutes. It gets a little more detail where this is going. I have a few of them we're going to run throughout the panel.
Gas prices have skyrocketed in the United States over the last few months, in part because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. To better understand why global unrest can have such a profound impact on gas prices here in America, I'm joined by Tom Kloza, Head of Global Energy and Analysis at Dow Jones Oil Price Information Service. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us. Thank you. I want to start off by asking, it seems like when it comes to oil and gas, the price is constantly fluctuating. I think we just heard this week that the price of a barrel has dropped below $100. What are the forces behind those constant fluctuations?
Wow, it is the lifeblood of the world economy. And this year, more than ever, we've seen just incredible volatility. No one really had Russia on their bingo card as, perhaps seeing impeded oil flows. And no one had China on their bingo card as having COVID lockdowns again here in 2022. Beyond that, you've seen a lot of the computer trading, algorithms and people just chasing momentum and so forth. The oil market, physically is about 100 million barrels a day, but paper trades are many, many, many times that. So you have all the banks, all the commodity pools, a lot of speculators, and a lot of algorithmic machines that are programmed to chase prices higher or prices lower. And we went up $40 and we went down $40. So maybe we're at equilibrium right now for about 4 seconds.
Why is Russia's invasion of Ukraine so influential when it comes to the price of gas?
Well, the world needs Russian oil and refined products. Russia produces somewhere between 9 and 10 million barrels a day of crude. They use about 4 of it for their own domestic needs. And Europe desperately needs Russian hydrocarbon molecules, whether it's crude oil, whether it's gasoline, diesel fuel heating oil, or particularly natural gas. They paid prices for natural gas this winter that were as much as 60 times what we pay in the United States. So if you lose that Russian oil, you could see prices really go up for a long period of time. It would be, not the equivalent of losing Saudi Arabia, but one of the closest things to it. And the diplomacy for Iran has failed recently. A lot of OPEC countries are having trouble living up to the promise to put some additional oil on the market. So, that together with a lot of hope about pent-up demand after COVID really sent prices higher. The Chinese lockdowns sent prices incredibly lower. That was a real shock.
People are still trying to process and understand how something happening outside of the U.S. can have such a profound impact on the price of gas for them at home. Can you explain, the significance of gas being set on a global market and why something happening?
Very simple. Use our own resources. Stop purchasing from other countries. That would lower our gas prices, oil prices, and electric prices. Why are we buying from other countries?
Thousands of miles away can have such a profound impact on Americans and the price they pay at the pump.
Sure. We always thought that this would be a year where we saw high gas prices, but by high gas prices, we meant maybe $4 a cup of coffee there or whatever, because we've lost some refining from last year, or from really pre-COVID, we've lost about 1.2 million barrels a day of refining, enough to keep the market tight if you have a driving season where people are out there taking trips.
No, we lost 1.2 billion barrels when Sleepy Joe shut down the pipelines.
Russian oil, it's part of the world market, and the world market has imports and exports. We were importing Russian crude and some Russian gasoline and diesel. wasn't really vital to our interests. It was more like the gluten-free appetizers on the menu. But the world needs that oil. So every time you see $1 increase in the price of crude, it translates to about 2.5 cents at the pump, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in the Mediterranean. And it was all about crude. Until 2022, it was about tremendous discipline from a cartel, OPEC, plus Russia. It's like, let's see if we can make this cartel a little bit more evil. And they had tremendous discipline. They were not releasing more oil to the market. And we have a tight market in 2022. Now, it can fall apart very, very quickly if we have a recession or if we have the resurrection of another COVID variety or variant. And that's one of the reasons why, if you look at prices in the last 2 weeks, they've been all over the place. I always mention that oil prices tend to be bipolar, but this has been like Sybil, from something, in the annals of psychiatry, up 40 and down 40 in less than 10 days.
You mentioned OPEC, so I want to come to the other nations that produce and sell oil. What are those nations? And well, I definitely don't want you to have to list out all of the nations, but what role do other oil producing nations play in influencing the price of gas for Americans?
Well, the United States will probably reach an all-time record for oil production this year. But some of the executives in exploration and production are kind of getting dragged into it kicking and screaming. The reason for that is they've been through 2 booms, but 2 busts. A couple of years ago, the price of oil went negative, which was kind of a silly thing that had to do with some failures at the exchange, but still an awful lot of companies lost a lot of money. So we're going to see more production from the United States. A lot of countries are struggling, and I call it a 7 and 7 rule. Shale oil can be brought to market in about 7 months, pretty quickly. You decide you're going to drill in West Texas, you find oil, you bring it to market in maybe 6 or 7 months. The big, huge projects, like there's a project in Guyana, offshore, that's going to bring 1 million barrels a day to the market, they take about 7 years. So the fact that a lot of exploration and production companies haven't spent much money on capital expenditures has sort of impeded the growth of crude everywhere. It's profitable. I mean, the Saudis can make crude oil for just, can bring it to the surface for a couple of dollars a barrel and sell it, even if they sell it for 50 or 60 or 70, they're making a lot of money. And shale oil can be brought to the surface for about 25 as a break-even number. But there's not a lot of money there, and they're kind of at odds with, the folks who are recognizing global warming, and I do recognize global warming, and think that we need to do something about fossil fuels in recognition of that. Europe tried to do that this winter, and they tried to.
So what would happen if we stopped fossil fuels? The national grid, what is that ran off of? Don't they burn fossil fuels?
To rely perhaps a little too heavily on wind and solar. And the sun didn't shine and the wind didn't blow, and they saw natural gas and electricity prices just go up to levels which would inspire a recession. So you'll hear the term energy transition. It's going to have to be a well-planned out transition to really wean ourselves off of some of the fossil fuels in the next 10 years. It doesn't happen in 10 months.
So to simplify what you're saying, the cost of drilling and bringing gas oil not only to the surface but to the pump, takes time and costs more domestically in some cases than it would cost, say, in Saudi Arabia, where there is an abundance of oil at their disposal and brings down the price, per barrel. And so what I want to get, and is that what you're saying?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, there's vast differences. Like I say, in the United States, and there'll be people who try to gin up the numbers higher, but it's about $25 a barrel or less to bring oil to the market. So at $100, it was very, very profitable. Overseas, it can vary all over the place, but when you get into the Middle East, I could dig a hole in my backyard if I lived in Riyadh maybe and find some oil. it's kind of like a jet clampet meets the Persian Gulf.
As our audience tries to kind of piece together all of these moving parts that contribute to what they're experiencing in real time at the pump, it does beg the question, as you've laid out the landscape of why oil prices are increasing, what OPEC is and the significance or the context of why and how their influence is working in this current market, and in tandem with and how that affects or informs the role that Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the sanctions that have followed factor into all of this.
Yeah, and Nicole, I mean, the crazy thing has happened in 2022. The oil and gas side has become incredibly defensive, defending a cartel. Now, when I think of a cartel, I think of the Medellin cartel or the Mexican drug cartels and El Chapo and things like that. I don't think of anything that's warm and fuzzy. And then you throw Russia into that. It's like, why are we defending a cartel? Defending it intellectually, I mean. And the only other cartel I know about is the Diamond Cartel with the beers. So I think, it's very strange to see all of these capitalists defending the notion of a cartel, because we should find it reprehensible to the economics of the world or any place. But that's what happened. You've kind of got this centrifugal argument between oil and gas interests who are defending the cartel and saying, oh, it's not because of them, it's because of the energy transition moving too quickly. And then you have the Biden administration, who could probably use a little diplomacy with the oil and gas business rather than, I don't speak for oil and gas companies, but they would probably argue that they've been demonized or they want to be put out of business. So you look at some of the refineries that closed, and they closed because the companies did not want these to become stranded assets later in the decade. They're $1 billion or $2 billion assets. So there needs to be a dialogue between the left and the right on this issue, and they need to come to the center. But like most things in politics, people have gravitated to the extremes.
I want to bring us back to the Biden administration. Thank you for mentioning them. So the Biden administration recently announced a U.S. ban on Russian oil.
Right.
What kind of impact could that have on the price of gas in the U.S.?
That was more ceremonial than anything else. I mean, we use some Russian oil, but we use some of the gnarly stuff. That's not exactly an industry term that comes out of Russia that really requires some sophisticated, complex refineries to turn into gasoline.
But once again, why can't we use our own resources? Why do we have to purchase resources from other countries? Why can't we use our own? We used to be independent years and years ago. Now look at us. We're buying from other countries. I got one clip that I got to explain to you what China's doing. Now, when China is purchasing, all right, the grain, that's another topic. We'll talk about that later.
We're certainly not dependent on it. Europe is. Europe is very, very dependent on Russian crude and Russian refined products. And to a certain extent, China is very dependent on some of the stuff that comes out of Siberia. So, it's a big deal. When you've got a producer that makes, 9 or 10 million barrels a day and has refineries, and there's the possibility that they may, anyone that knows Russian history knows that their leaders can put them through incredible pain. They may decide that they don't want to sell oil to some Western interests. So we're not done. We're still in a market where we could move $40 up or $40 lower in a heartbeat. And that's scary. It really is scary. But the United States doesn't itself need Russian oil. We import about 4 million barrels a day from Canada. So we want to have good relations with Canada. If we went to war with them, we'd be in a lot of trouble, particularly in the National Hockey League. But anyway, it's not that we needed the Russian oil. It was largely ceremonial. And we'll see what happens with the sanctions as they get tougher. It could be that oil will be contained in Russia and it'll pile up. They used to store it in open vats in pits. So I don't think there's a Russian environmental protection agency, so it'll be interesting theater to watch.
You know, the average retail price of a gallon of gasoline has risen by 25% in the past 2 months and by about 70% since President Biden took office.
That says something right there. 70%. Because Sleepy Joe.
Is the administration responsible for these increases?
No, I think they're responsible if we get increases in maybe 2023 or 2024. And the item that's cited the most in ascribing improper blame to the Biden administration is that he signed an executive order to not proceed with the Keystone XL pipeline.
That is the reason why gas prices went sky high.
That was a supplementary pipeline that was going to bring more Canadian oil, not necessarily to the United States for use, but to the Gulf Coast, where it could be exported to other countries. So we continue to import about 4 million barrels of crude from Canada, so we've got a good supply there. You know, the other things that he's addressed, leases on federal lands or whatever, there's plenty of acreage to yet be exploited. But what's happened, and this happened really before President Biden took office, was that Wall Street was burned by oil and gas companies, some smaller ones, that went under or that had to pay off bonds or had trouble paying off bonds because they borrowed money on the premise that crude oil would be $50 or $100 and it dropped to a negative number. So Wall Street, to a certain extent, and the banking community said, we don't want to lend you money to drill for more oil. And among the CEOs, it was even communicated that, oh, we need to be disciplined. We don't want to exploit this or we're going to have another bust. So that was one of the big moving parts as well. The president restored corporate average fuel economy standards that were passed during the Obama administration and were kind of pulled back during the Trump administration. And ultimately, that will help preserve the amount of gasoline that we use.
You know, the price of a tank of gas in Texas is different than the price of a tank of gas in California or in Michigan, for that matter, or all over the United States. What are the other factors that affect the price of gas in different parts of the country?
Well, in Texas, you've got so many complex refineries, and you do have the crude oil in your backyard in West Texas there. So that helps. In other states like California, you've got about $1.30, maybe $1.26, $1.30 in taxes and carbon fees that the public has to pay at the pump. They may not see that, they'll see the federal tax or the state tax, but there's a price for carbon that gets passed through to the consumer, and that may come to other states as well. You have lower state taxes in the Southeast and kind of the Gulf Coast than you do otherwise. And some of the gasoline that you use in major metropolitan areas is a little bit more difficult to make and a little bit more expensive. California is really the laboratory for the rest of the country. Now, I hate to say that because the prices there are about $5.80 today. Nobody wants.
It's more than $5.80. I think it was around $6 to $7, if I'm not mistaken, per gallon of gas. I heard this morning.
What's that laboratory visiting them anytime soon? But it's not a free lunch. If you want to decarbonize the world and wean large segments of the population off of fossil fuel, it's going to be expensive and it's going to be painful. The oddity or the irony is that if you looked at it and you looked at 2008 prices and adjusted it for inflation, with the exception of California, we're not paying nearly as much as we were there. But a person doesn't go to a gas station and see the price at $4.40 and go, well, adjusted for inflation, it's fine. I'm happy with it. They look to not fix the problem, but they look to fix blame. And then they go out and they buy an SUV, a huge one, the next time they're shopping for a car because they think that protects them.
As you mentioned, the price is different in different parts of the country for a lot of different reasons. And, they are noticeably high in California. But I'm curious to hear, from a historical standpoint, Is this the highest they've ever been?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So why can't we have the same prices for fuel throughout the whole entire country? The same exact price. I understand there's transportation a little further than others, but why can't we regulate the fuel prices to a maximum amount? We will say, put a law, like a tap on it, like you only could charge so much per gallon, and that's the federal law. I don't know. Question I'm raising up. Answer in the chat.
California now features the highest gasoline prices and the highest diesel prices we've ever seen anywhere in the United States. And I think probably if you adjusted for inflation, it would still be the highest. In California, the regulators there want to be weaned off of fossil fuels. You've got different cities and towns that, are going to prohibit fossil fuel using vehicles. They want to be moving to electric or carpooling or mass transit, and it's going to be kind of a labor of Hercules to get that done. It's expensive right now. But I will tell you this, before you were born, I used to visit California, and the air, you could cut it with scissors. It was so smoggy and stuff. They have cleaned up the air by using a lot better fuel mixtures over the last 30 years. So there's a silver lining in that dark cloud of higher prices.
As people try to navigate processing this information and trying to cut costs, what can they do to save at the pump? What would your advice be to our viewers
This is funny.
Are looking to just manage and navigate this financially?
I'm going to go way back to my college when Steve Martin had a routine called Let's Get Small. And I think we need to get, a little bit of let's get small. Smaller vehicles, less living large. To a great extent, commuting has been transferred to a lot of working from home, and that's going to help. And, I think electric vehicles are going to have a place. The problem with electric vehicles are that some of the countries that we have horrible relations with through no fault of our own are the places where a lot of the metals and rare earth materials and whatever come from. So
that's exactly. So why are we going to go to electric when we have to get rare materials from other countries that we have nothing to do with, make those countries rich by us buying electric vehicles, and on grid can't even handle it? Our grid is falling apart. You don't see that in the news, do you?
Oh, it's going to be tough to make that transition to EVs. And of course, the supply chain issues that we've seen related to COVID make for a messier sort of transfer. But the other thing I would say is you don't need a car that uses premium gasoline. Premium gasoline is 60 cents above regular, and regular is expensive enough right now. Almost all cars can run on regular gasoline. And there's like this dirty little secret out there that, I'm going to treat my car by running 93 octane. You probably don't need to do that. Even the auto manuals don't say that. And another thing, and I think we're going to see this, we're going to use more ethanol in the United States. Now, you can argue about, how much fuel goes into raising the corn, that goes into the ethanol, but I think we're going to see more of a gasoline mixture that's 15% ethanol and 85% hydrocarbon. And that'll probably be mostly in the Midwest where, they like to embrace corn and have corn festivals and everything. But
all right, so this is where we're going to leave this off. What you just heard him embracing by the corn. We're talking about earlier, I mentioned about what China is doing to the grain, which happens to be rice and corn. So keep that in mind, what he just said.
we'll see it.
A lot of people are also wondering.
We're going to play this back again.
Hydrocarbon. And that'll probably be mostly corn that goes into the ethanol by running 93 octane. That's above regular.
There we go.
And regular.
Listen to what he says.
Enough right now.
Then I'll play another
Almost
clip.
All cars can run on regular gasoline. And there's like this dirty little secret out there that, I'm going to treat my car by running 93 octane. You probably don't need to do that. Even the auto manuals economists don't say that. And another thing,
Here we
I
go.
think we're going to see this, we're going to use more ethanol in the United States. Now, you can argue about, how much fuel goes into raising the corn that goes into the ethanol, but I think we're going to see more of a gasoline mixture that's 15% ethanol and 85% hydrocarbon. And that'll probably be mostly in the Midwest where, they like to embrace corn and have corn festivals and everything. But we'll see.
All right. So keep in mind this audio clip, what he just said. All right. This is kind of fucked up.
See it.
A lot of people are also wondering, how long is this going to last? Will we be experiencing these high prices forever? Is this temporary? How long should people keep an eye on this, and how permanent or impermanent is it?
I can answer that question. We're going to leave it as it. This right here, we ain't going to play no more of this audio clip. Once we get Donald Trump back in office, 2024, that's when it's all going to be ended. That's when we're going to make America great again. All right, so why don't we get to this one here? And that little audio clip, they were talking about the corn. All right, so we're going to get into this one here. All right, got to pay attention to this because this is really, really happening like right now. I just found this one this morning, and it kind of shocked the shit out of me.
China is massively stockpiling food supplies ahead of the coming global famine. Bloomberg says that Chinese authorities are in panic mode. So far this year, they have snapped up more than half of the world's grain supplies. At the same time, the United States is struggling to find alternative suppliers on the global market, and consumers are still experiencing shortages of a wide range of everyday necessities, while prices continue to reach stratospheric new highs.
Exactly. The corn. China is purchasing a lot of money, a lot of land, a lot of corn for the fuel, for the food, fuel, vice versa. Now listen to what this gentleman here says. How American failing food system could collapse like the 2008 banks. All right. Now this is crazy.
Even more worryingly, a new report says that America's food system could collapse like the 2008 banks, and the scenario for the next months look absolutely terrifying right now. That's what we're going to expose today. Before moving on, please support our work with a thumbs up in this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
All right, so you hit the subscribe if you're not here. Already subscribed to my channel. Hit the bell. Yes, I'm doing an audio clip from another YouTuber. I can't show the video because I will get a copyright, but the audio I'm able to do. So we're going to continue with this.
New revealing reports show that China, which is home to less than 20% of the world's population, has managed to stockpile more than half of the globe's grains, leading to steep price increases across the planet and pushing more countries into famine. The Chinese government's massive food panic buying spree, which started in January, hasn't slowed in recent months. And now the United States Department of Agriculture estimates that China owns 69% of the world's corn reserves, 60% of its rice, and 51% of its wheat.
That is ridiculous. We do have somebody in the panel. Once this audio clip is complete, it's probably going to be another 18 minutes there, Briggs. I'll be pulling people up into the panel, and they could be able to discuss about the audio clips I've been playing here. I also have maybe 2 more audio clips, one about the gas and another one about the food. We have this one gentleman that I was listening to this morning. He was explaining about the Walmart stock shelves and how Walmart is actually slowly going out of business.
At the start of the year, China has spent $98.1 billion importing food, up 4.6 times from a decade earlier, according to the General Administration of Customs of China. From January to September, the Eastern superpower has imported more food than it had since at least 2016, which is as far back as comparable data goes. Even though the country claims it's only doing that to ensure it has enough food on hand to feed its large population, something the country has struggled with historically, the data indicates otherwise. China expert and author Gordon Chang argues that the only way to describe the Chinese Communist Party's large agricultural purchases is to call it what it is: hoarding. They are hoarding, he said. They, of course, will never admit to something like that. Experts agree that the nation's draconian health policies can partially explain the current scramble to secure food. Many provinces are still facing hard lockdowns, and the situation has been particularly dire in the Uyghur province of Xinjiang. For weeks, residents have been under stay-at-home mandates in an effort to curb the number of virus cases, and other areas could be next. Unfortunately, yes, lockdowns are prompting just about everybody to hoard, and it's not just in lockdown cities, said Stanley Chow, author of Selling to China. Chinese citizens are hoarding even in cities that just got out of lockdown or have no threat of lockdown. Chow revealed that his contacts are seeing people still lining up at grocery stores to buy up everything from flour, rice, meats to vegetables and baby food.
We all know the baby food and a lot of other hard to find items. We're unable to get that stuff anymore. And if we do find it, we do stock up on it. So it's just not them, it's us. I know a lot of people right now are stocking up on their food products, dry goods. And they have their basements full of dry goods.
Who can afford to use grocery delivery services are ordering up to 6 weeks' worth of groceries, while others load up on meats and frozen vegetables to last up to 6 weeks without having to step foot outside to buy food, he said, describing the environment as a mass hysteria, with residents taking their cues from provinces where they're seeing people survive on minimal rations or complaining about little or no food for weeks. On the other hand, Chinese officials are telling people not to worry about facing the lockdowns, but according to Chow, the people aren't taking any chances. People are just extrapolating and saying if it happened before, it'll happen again. On a similar note, Usha Halia, an expert on China and food security, said the rush to hoard food supplies was sparked by people observing other cities' food rationing. Chinese citizens also know that the government will not release information to make their daily lives smoother and enable planning for daily commodities such as food if the information provides evidence of failed policies. For its part, the Chinese government censors were ordered to open a campaign of comment flooding to hide posts about local food shortages, according to a leaked directive published by the China Digital Times. The Ili-Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture, also known as Yili, is home to about 4.5 million people and is believed to have been first put into lockdown in early August without official public announcement after a new virus outbreak. In recent days, social media has seen a surge of posts about food shortages, delays, or refusals of medical care. All these posts about Yili's scenery and food are coming from alternative accounts. Nice job, government. Have you ever heard of maintaining a shred of dignity? Said one Weibo user. This is really happening during the Yili epidemic. The locals have tried many things to let the outside world know about our circumstances here, said another one. We're locked inside and don't have enough supplies. Yet they opened the tourist scenic areas. Help us. Please help us here. Help the Yili common people, the third commentator wrote. The big irony is that even as it encourages residents not to make a run on grocery stores, the government has been stockpiling massive amounts of food and other commodities. A report published by the state-controlled Economic Daily in January found that China's rice and wheat inventory can feed its people for almost 2 years.
Imagine that your government have enough food to be able to feed their citizens up to 2 years.
Which leads us to the question of why the population of the biggest importer of food supplies of 2022 is still facing food shortages. Geopolitical strategists say the country is keeping most of its imports on its reserves in an attempt to weaponize them later as global conflicts continue to escalate. Chinese leaders who are deeply paranoid and insecure in the best of moments are even more so now, said Qin Yuan, head of grain reserves at the National Food and Strategic Reserves Administration, adding that China is keeping its strategic food stockpiles at a historically high level. Although the United States can't stop the Chinese from buying up everything, the experts said there is a possibility that the U.S. government, down the line, might opt to block the export of agricultural products if China's hoarding gets out of control. U.S. authorities are getting furious with Beijing for draining the global commodity market, and they've been expressing their growing frustration with the Chinese measures in recent days. We would like to see China act like the great power that it is and provide more grain to the poor people around the world, said James O'Brien, head of the U.S. State Department's Office of Sanctions Coordinations, noting that China has been a very active buyer of grain, and it is stockpiling grain at a time when hundreds of millions of people are entering the catastrophic phase of food insecurity and facing acute shortages for months on end.
All right, so if China's over there buying grain from these local farmers, which you know that's happening, but yet how many farmers sold out to China to be able to, because they could not afford to be able to keep up their farms? Now the country, U.S., why aren't we purchasing this grain from the local farmers instead of going to buy it from overseas? So why don't U.S. step up to the plate and start supporting these farmers and purchasing and stockpiling this grain?
O'Brien informed that 40% of grain shipments from Ukraine in April have gone to China alone. Similarly, Gordon Chang also pointed out that many developed nations that never faced difficulties to ensure international supplies before will be struggling with each other to ensure their food supply. He fears that the next geopolitical conflicts could be fought over food. And while that may be a worry for the future, it still affects the present, as China's stockpiling continues to impact food prices. Prices will go up, Chang continued. That will be imminent, and it will continue.
And it's happening now. Right this second, it is happening. You go to your local store and you look at the food prices and you know what's happening. The prices are going up. The rich is getting richer. The poor is getting poorer.
For its part, the Chinese government is ludicrously accusing the United States as the one who is weaponizing food. Since it is the U.S. that is weaponizing food and profiting from the practice, whether the world can avoid a food crisis next year largely depends on how cooperative the U.S. will be with the efforts of the UN and other members of the international community. That quote is from the government-controlled China Daily. But the truth is that the United States is far and away the biggest donor to the World Food Program.
The biggest donor, okay, of the food program is the United States. So why can't we, before we worry about other countries donating food to other countries to feed them, why can't we take care of our own hungry American people? Germany, European, United Kingdom, Canada, World Bank. All right, we'll do that.
The idea that the US is weaponizing food is simply absurd. The accusation implies that Western sanctions on Russian food exports are to blame, but in reality, Russian grain and fertilizers were only temporarily subject to US or European sanctions during the months of April and May, when Western allies banned Russian ships from their ports. Experts have argued that the US sanction was largely symbolic, given that Russian ships carried less than 1% of the cargo arriving at US ports. And apart from a ban on energy exports, no bans on food exports are in place right now. As the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen explains, Russia and China are the real food weaponizers, and that populations would end up being left to pay the price. This is a cold, callous, and calculated siege by Putin on some of the most vulnerable people in the world, she stressed. Food has become now part of the Kremlin's arsenal of terror, and we cannot tolerate it. The China daily spin on Western sanctions is in line with Kremlin disinformation, which has tried to divert attention from the costs of a conflict that has victimized tens of thousands and created ripple effects affecting economies around the entire planet. That is such an unfounded lie that one report published by risk consultancy Verisk Maplecroft indicates that China is actually the one diversifying its supply of critical natural resources to shore up its ability to weaponize trade against its geopolitical rivals. If China has a soft underbelly, it is its high dependency on foreign natural resources. One way the country is diversifying its import sources is by buying stakes in overseas companies. Doing that will increase the proportion of Chinese-owned resources in the country's total imports, the report said. China is seeking to strengthen its control over global supply chains via overseas investments and partnerships with international majors. Beijing has been supporting Chinese state-owned enterprises to go global and establish control of resource bases overseas since the late 1990s, it continued. Our data shows China is pivoting towards more autocratic regimes that represent greater stability for its supply lines than democracies that are or may become hostile to Beijing. But it's also using its massive market as a source of diplomatic leverage, the consultancy said. By securing diversified sources, China will be in a better position to weaponize trade with geopolitical rivals, while at the same time increasing the economic dependence of new and existing partners, it concluded. While the Eastern nation continues to seize a larger share of food products from international suppliers, the United States is left scrambling to find alternative solutions, and new data shows that it's falling behind. For example, China just made the largest corn purchase since May 2021 last month, totaling 1.084 million tons. That's a 50% rise from a year ago. That number of corn imports dwarfs those of the United States, which were estimated at a mere 57.8 million tons. The United States is now experiencing extensive corn shortages, and consumers are already being impacted.
All right, so at the last audio clip I was talking about, you heard the gentleman saying we're going to start using more corn to increase a better gas. So where is this corn going to be coming from? So if China is purchasing our corn and they're stocking it up, that means we are in a corn shortage. That means we would have to purchase that corn back from China. It just does not make sense.
Arizona farmer John Post is warning that the entire U.S. food supply chain is being affected, given that corn is used in the production of fertilizers, animal feed, and a series of food staples we buy and consume regularly. On top of that, nearly 40% of the U.S. corn crop now goes to ethanol. The share increases every year, amplifying price pressures when the market is tight.
There you go. Ethanol. We're just talking about the fuel. Now we're talking about fuel prices going dramatically up. And now we're going to have to buy this ethanol through China because they're holding 50% of the corn stock.
The United States is also a major corn exporter, and due to its long-term contracts with other nations, it is forced to ship a considerable share of its corn production overseas. The farmer forecasts prices will rise from 10 to 20% this year, and we expect the corn shortage to continue throughout 2023. In the meantime, shoppers are still seeing empty shelves and prolonged shortages of everyday necessities. Different from China, U.S. social media is full of images of bare supermarket aisles and signs explaining the lack of available food and other items. Stores such as Aldi, Target, Costco, and Walmart have apologized to customers for the shortages. We're really seeing the perfect storm we've been warned about, said Phil Lempert, editor of the website supermarketguru.com. We've become really reliant on kind of that just-in-time supply chain, and I think what we're seeing is that things are just getting off track right now. From tomatoes to tampons, product stockouts in grocery stores are threatening to upend the holiday season as Americans scramble to prepare before things get worse. Even more concerningly, a recent report by The Guardian warns that America's failing food system could collapse as the banks did in 2008. The food industry is becoming tightly coupled to the financial sector, increasing what scientists call the network density of the system, making it more susceptible to cascading failure. George Monbiot, the author of the article, says, according to one estimate, 90% of the grain trade is done by 4 major corporations. As they begin to adopt similar practices and pursue similar revenue streams, their businesses will look more and more alike, which may make a single shock to the global food system that much more catastrophic. Unexpected financial or meteorological events can upend not one but all of their businesses, leaving a huge hole in the market for necessary goods.
All right. So you heard a couple audio clips regarding what is going on right now. I'm going to open up the panel. I believe Mr. Briggs is still down there. We're going to have him come up. If anybody would like to come up to the panel, hit that link above and see if Mr. Briggs has anything to talk about. Where are you, Mr. Briggs? He must be working on his truck or something. All right, so we're going to continue with another audio clip. This one here is, let's see. There
we go.
There we go.
I was I was on mute for a second because I was in the building getting loaded.
Okay. All right. You like to add anything to the panel before I play this next audio clip? The next one is be ready for the collapse of Walmart.
Yeah, I believe it. Everything, all those videos you just played, I've seen them. People think I said that before to some people. They say I'm crazy, but it's coming.
Yep. All right. So we're going to play this next audio clip.
As the United States moves towards another recession, Walmart's empire is silently crumbling down. When you're the world's biggest retailer, even a 1% drop in earnings can be translated into billions of dollars in losses. But profits are down by almost a quarter compared to a year ago, which means that the big box retailers' woes are far worse than anyone would have imagined. For decades, Walmart was the company competitors feared most, but new numbers show that the retailer has been falling behind in recent years. Walmart has begun to lose popularity amongst consumers, and major holes are starting to form in its business. For the most part, the company has hidden its financial struggles from the headlines because the problems it faces are different across the world, which allows the superstore chain to mask itself in the overall picture. But as Motley Fool's Travis Hoyam noted, when we dig between the lines, we can rapidly see a company in serious trouble and could be the latest in a long line of leading retailers to go from boom to bust in the blink of an eye. That's why in today's video, we have compiled a series of numbers, facts, and stats that prove that Walmart's best days are behind it. Before checking this list, please support us with a thumbs up in this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Without further ado, here are 20 signs Walmart is falling apart before our eyes.
So please hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit the share. I'm going to be pulling up a couple more audio clips on a different type of live. I may be doing that later on tonight, if not tomorrow. So let's start with number one.
The world's biggest retailer, which is the country's largest grocer, recently shared an ominous sales outlook for the final quarter of 2022. In a September 29th announcement, Walmart said it is bracing for a sizable decline in its profit margins as the rising cost of everyday necessities eat up more of household budgets and leave shoppers with less money to spend on items they want, such as new clothing. The company will have to slash prices on a wide range of items to get rid of merchandise that isn't selling, hurting its bottom line during the busiest shopping season of the year. 2. Walmart also announced that it expects adjusted earnings per share to fall 9% in this quarter and between 13% compared to the same time a year ago, further highlighting its latest financial troubles. 3. After the announcement, the market reacted accordingly, sending Walmart shares down by 8% in a single day. And even though it managed to climb back up in the past few days, it remains near the lows of a consolidation pattern. 4. Right now, Walmart stock is still below its 50-day moving average, which indicates it's still struggling. It also remains mired beneath the longer-term 200-day moving average. 5. Its recent poor performance in the market wasn't the worst downturn it has experienced this year. In fact, in May, shares of the superstore chain suffered their steepest one-day decline ever, falling 11.7% in a single day. After it released its first earnings report, it became clear that its first quarter was exceptionally weak. Investors expected the retailer to report a $1.48 per share profit, but Walmart instead reported a $1.30 per share. 6. According to Gap data, the retail giant reported a 24% year-over-year decline in profit per diluted share. Needless to say, investors are not happy. 7. The news gets worse. Profits, it turns out, are the least of Walmart's problems. The retailer didn't generate any cash from operations at all this past quarter, instead consuming $3.8 billion. Add in $3.5 billion in capital spending, Walmart's free cash flow for quarter three was a dishearteningly negative $7.3 billion. And the company hadn't experienced negative cash from operations since quarter three 1995. That's more than a quarter century ago, according to historical data provided by S&P Global Market Intelligence. 8 and more financial losses may be coming for Walmart. The IBD stock checkup shows that earnings have actually fallen by an average of 4.5% over the past 3 quarters. This is well short of the 25% growth sought by investors. Over the past 3 years, the retail chain's monthly sales have grown by an average of 10%. That's why its projected 4% sales growth for the final quarter of 2022 seems so unimpressive. In other words, investors are seeing Walmart stock as a no-buy right now.
All right, so I'm going to continue with that clip in a minute. Food Forest, how you doing? I see in the future, within maybe 3 months, 4 months, sometime by the end of the year, I see Walmart requesting from the government as for a bailout to be able to survive for the following year. This is where I see this is going. Walmart's going to request for a bailout, just like the automobile vehicles did. Same thing, all the car dealerships. Walmart is going under.
9. Last month, during a post-earnings conference call, executives noted that the company is facing a lack of cash flow, and that was primarily caused because it heavily spent to build inventory in the first 2 quarters of the year, and the cost of its inventory was further elevated due to inflation. The big issue was the fact that the more expensive items it purchased this year are simply not selling at the pace the company expected, and now they have a massive inventory glut. That's why Walmart has been canceling a huge number of orders in recent months. John David Rainey, the company's EVP and CFO, said that the retailer was reducing exposure in electronics, home, and sporting goods, and canceled billions of dollars in orders to realign inventories. 10. The retail titan knows how much its low prices are important to its customers, but still, the company just issued an alarming warning for customers everywhere. On the food side, we're seeing double-digit inflation, and I'm concerned that inflation may continue to increase. CEO Doug McMillon said, Walmart's grocery prices already rose 21% between July 2019 and July 2022.
All right. They're saying 21.5%. Now, I looked at the stats on that to find out what the increase now is, almost 32.2% since July. So since July, it went up almost 10%. Well, a little more than 10%. That is crazy.
No wonder why consumers are shopping less at the superstore chain. 11. In fact, over the past couple of years, Walmart has been losing price wars with its other competitors. For the longest time, price wars used to be the big box retailers' game. The company was so good at this, it had a reputation for driving mom and pop stores out of business. At its peak, it was the undisputed leader in low prices. However, today, the battle is not so easy. The income statement of Walmart is full of real estate-related expenses for its big box stores. On the other hand, e-commerce retailers don't have to deal with those expenses since they run their entire business from the virtual world.
And they are talking about Amazon. So when you order merchandise from Amazon, get better and faster service.
Walmart is steadily losing its...
Yeah, you can still talk, Briggs. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it don't surprise me that Walmart would go under.
No, doesn't surprise me.
I don't like Walmart myself. I don't like them myself because they underpay their workers. But the problem is, they employ a lot.
Well, this is the reason why I think Walmart, as they are not getting their dollar up, their stocks up, they're losing money. I think they're going to try to go for a government bailout. They're going to use, because they're one of the leading highest employers in the United States.
Oh, I believe it. But if they try to give them a bailout, I'll say they better stop, because I don't care. I mean, when do we stop? We can't keep bailing everybody out.
That's correct, because if that's the case, why didn't we get the mom and pop stores to bail out?
Exactly.
As far as lower pricing is concerned, and that is one of the things that used to define the company. 12. Goldman Sachs analysts highlight that Walmart supercenters are particularly struggling as consumers increasingly choose convenience stores over one-stop shops. The retail giant's mega stores suffered a 3% same-store sales decline in the third quarter compared with last year. During the same period, foot traffic for Walmart's U.S. stores fell by 2.1%. I think convenience is where the consumers have been looking, especially if you look at the baby boomers, CFO Charles Harley said.
All right, we're going to pause that for a second. So Food Forest put something up, and he says, plan a food forest and skip Walmart. Exactly. This is what I've said several times before during my live videos. Imagine all the properties that we have, including your neighbors. They go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain their lawn. They hire people to cut their lawn, cut the hedges, Imagine if everybody took a nice spot of their lawn and made a garden. So every neighborhood, every house has their own garden. They planted their own vegetables. Planted, depending where you're located, they planted vegetables, and they planted apples and oranges, their fruit. We wouldn't have to go to the store and purchase this, because if yours was not ready, maybe your next door neighbor would have few tomatoes, or the neighbor next door might have some potatoes, and it goes and goes. Why can't we have that? Why can't we have, our neighbors, ourselves, planting gardens?
Because that would make sense.
We wouldn't have to worry about these big box stores or, for our vegetables. And it would be fresh.
There's only one problem with that, though, Lucky.
What's that?
Like me, I gave up planting gardens because I got so many deer in my neighborhood. They eat everything. You can't you can't grow anything. Even with fences, they dive over the fences. So, I mean, I personally would like to wish they would have a town hunt so we could go out there with a bow and arrow even and shoot the damn things.
Well, then therefore there's our meat.
Yep.
That's it. Eat the deer. All right, let's continue. We got a little while longer on this. Then I'll just continue with the panel there.
The PMO focused on some combination of value and convenience. Goldman Sachs analysts wrote in a recent research note predicting the slow decline of big box retailers like Walmart and Target. 13. One thing many people don't know is the fact that Walmart is the largest employer in the United States. But even as we approach the all-important holiday season, the retailer is cooling off on recruiting. Walmart's seasonal hiring total is down 73% from last year, adding only 40,000 seasonal staff members compared to the same time in 2021, when the company added 150,000 mostly permanent and full-time associates, as well as 20,000 supply chain workers. That is yet another sign of corporate America preparing for a deep recession. 14. In August, Walmart said that major layoffs were necessary for the company's future. In a single month, it reportedly laid off approximately 200 of its corporate employees amid growing concerns over inflation and sagging customer spending. In a statement, the company said inflationary prices reflecting supply chain problems and storage costs associated with a backlog of shipping containers were also forcing the retailer to find more ways to reduce costs. 15. Truth be told, Walmart's supply chain is a mess. The retailer's operations were built to keep the inventory of its mega stores full of products. They are the leaders in mass transportation and obtaining bulk discounts. But when it comes to schedule reliability and on-time deliveries, the company disappoints. The logistics involving supply chains are now about supplying individual products to the consumer's doorstep at the lowest possible cost. This is where e-commerce retailers have the lead over Walmart. Customers have also complained about many illogical issues with Walmart. For example, when shoppers order multiple products with Amazon, they get them at the same time in the same packet. However, when a bunch of products is ordered from Walmart, they arrive at different times, making it inconvenient for the customer. 16. If things were going well for the retail giant, they wouldn't have permanently shuttered 160 stores across 27 states in the past 2 years.
Imagine that. 160 stores they closed.
Well, I think we got too many Walmarts. I mean, like, okay, where I'm sitting right now, where I'm getting loaded, I'm 4 miles from a Walmart. If I wanted to drive, and then if I wanted to go the other direction, I'm 7 miles from a Walmart. If I wanted to go north, I'm 8 miles from a Walmart. Why do we need so many damn Walmarts?
I'm counting 1, 2, the 2 Walmarts that I could think of, probably within 5 miles distance ratio from each other. That's That's like last night we were talking on the panel. I forgot Polar Bear Ed's panel. We're talking about Dunkin' Donuts. You know, I got 10 Dunkin' Donuts in my town, in my ratio, not even 5 miles away from each other. I mean, I could go to any one of those 10. I could be there in like maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Any one of them.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish this here. We're almost to the end.
The closures led to mass layoffs of over 10,000 employees. The states hit the hardest were Texas with 29 closings, North Carolina with 17, and 11 in Arkansas. 17. On top of that, the retailer temporarily closed hundreds of stores in the past few weeks. So if you notice that your local Walmart is closed, that's why. As of September the 30th, the big box retailer's website indicated that there are at least 240 stores currently closed throughout the U.S. with no set date to reopen. Some of the facilities were facing product and personnel shortages, while others have been affected by Hurricane Ian, which...
All right. They're talking about product and employees shortage. All right. Employee shortage is through Walmart. It's been happening for a long period of time. We'll just say you go to your Walmart and they will have 20 registers. Now, out of those 20 registers, they used to have at least 5 or 6 of them open, and you put your stuff on the counter and it rolls up the belt, and there'll be a person that rings it up and they bag it, blah, blah, blah. Now, think of this. You go into a Walmart and what do? You bag your own fucking shit. You ring out your own fucking shit. They took the cash register employees away from their job. Now they have one person that is watching 10 registers as you, as a customer, is bringing your own merchandise out.
Those inventory losses of an estimated $6 million, and that's just in the state of Florida. 18. Globally, the retail chain is closing 269 stores as it exits the Walmart Express pilot program. 95% of those being closed are within 10 miles of another Walmart. Closing stores is never an easy decision, but it is necessary to keep the company strong and positioned for the future, CEO Doug McMillon said. The closings will begin at the end of the month and will affect 16,000 workers. They are set to cut down the company's global revenue, given that shuttered doors mean money that isn't being made. 19. With all that said, it's becoming increasingly evident that Walmart's empire is slowly crumbling down. In fact, Walmart may lose its position as U.S.'s largest retailer in 2020. According to J.P. Morgan, Amazon is on track to overtake Walmart this year as the nation's best performing company. Amazon's U.S. gross merchandise volume, or GMV, and that's a closely watched industry metric, used to measure the total value of goods sold over a certain time period, has grown significantly faster than both U.S. adjusted retail sales and U.S. e-commerce, the analyst said. J.P. Morgan analyst said Amazon's GMV in 2022 climbed 41% year over year, while Walmart's GMV is estimated to have grown 10% year over year in 2020. Based on current estimates, we believe Amazon could surpass Walmart to become the largest U.S. retailer in 2022, J.P. Morgan analysts Christopher Horvers and Doug Anmuth wrote. And 20. All of these numbers expose that the world's largest retailer's foundation may not be on solid ground anymore. However, that's not the whole story. Walmart is the thermometer of the American economy. The entire organization is focused on nothing but selling goods and services to Americans. Although it may be an empire in decline, it still sells a huge volume of merchandise every day. When Walmart misses estimates, it can only mean one of two things. Either Walmart or the American economy is weaker than anyone thought, or maybe both things at the same time.
All right, so we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it there. I believe this guy is 100% right. I think it's both. It's Walmart as well with the American industry, like us. You know, you're over here. You go to work 40 hours. You may gross $300 to $400, maybe $500, depending on the pay of the job or what you're doing for a job. So it might go up higher. Some people make less. And you go to the store and you go and buy a week's worth of groceries. You're looking about $150 to $200.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's something that's coming really, really bad with the audio clips I just played right there. And if you're not convinced now, I think.
Hey, I see a big change coming.
I see something happen. Yes.
Well, put it this way: where I'm at now is normally all. We used to have 8 loads a day coming out of here. Now we're down to 4.
Yeah, 4 loads.
Yep, it used to be 8, and it's gone down to 4 in the last 2 months.
Wow.
It's like there's a guy next to me moving trailer, and he told me he's worried sick because he just bought that truck less than a year and a half ago. He's got 2 years left to pay on it, and because he bought a brand new Kenworth, nice truck, gorgeous truck. Me, I bought my cheap $15,000 truck, and I put about 10 grand into it. He's got, I rebuilt had the motor rebuilt, new transmission, new clutch, both rear ends were rebuilt. Yeah, it's a 2015. I paid 25 grand and got about another 25 grand into it. and but my truck's paid for. I've been paying it off. I paid it off cash, and I put all the repair. I drove it a little bit, and when it was screwed up a little bit.
Yep.
Got to stay out of debt.
On one other clip, I'm just trying to locate it where it was. I closed it on accident. A very short clip, though. All right. 2.
Oh, what a day.
All right. This is the one. Excuse me.
No excuse. Drink some coffee and eat some Swiss rolls. Breakfast of champions. Yeah.
Well, I got the coffee and I got the ones with the strawberry, whatever that is there.
But when you were talking about prices, I just bought these at Walmart yesterday, marked down from $2.59 down to 59 cents.
Oh, all right.
They had 8 of them.
We're gonna play this one, and then we're gonna continue with the panel for a couple minutes, and then we're gonna end it at 9:30.
I never thought that earning money could be this easy. I just signed up to be a DoorDash driver, and it's been great. It's such a fun and easy way to make some extra cash.
What a fucking lie.
To the price at the pump tonight.
There we
Take
go.
a look at your screen. You'll see a massive jump between our current average and the average from this time last year. Almost $2 full. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows consumers are facing inflation rates not seen in 4 decades. Worse, those prices don't look like they'll stop rising anytime soon. You might be thinking of using some other types of fuel to try and save, but experts don't recommend it. THV11's Ian Russell explains.
I don't know about you all, but I am sick and tired of these high gas prices. I know a lot of you out there are probably feeling the same way. And some of you are probably looking at that ethanol handle and thinking, man, maybe I could use this as well. Well, mechanics tell me you could use this, but it's really not the best idea. At Coleman & Son Automotive in Little Rock, owner Dorian Coleman knows his way around a car.
Normally they come in for automotive repairs. That means you're leaking something, smelling something, or having some type of drivability issue.
And he sees all sorts of issues. One thing he sees occasionally can seem small, but it can cause some major headaches down the road.
And not in a lot of vehicles. Normally about 10% of vehicles made are have flex fuel.
He's talking ethanol fuel. There's not many places that even sell it around central Arkansas, but there's a noticeable difference in price. Gas is so expensive right now.
They too high, they way too high. They need to get cut down.
And you might be thinking of putting it in your car to save some money, but
those prices might be cheap today, but in the future they can cost you thousands of dollars.
Your car will tell you pretty blatantly what kind of fuel it can take. Usually it's on the gas cap or right next to it.
It's important to look at those labels or either check that owner's manual.
If you drive a car that can use that ethanol fuel, don't worry. Experts say you probably won't see any issues like what we've seen with regular gas.
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I mean, we've got plenty of corn out there, and supply is probably not going to be an issue in terms of getting ethanol.
Back at Coleman & Son.
All right, so that's a little clip that I heard. What he just said, we have plenty of corn out there. Now, if you watch and listen to the video that was just played there, the audio clip about what China is doing to our corn sauce, we are in a corn shortage. So I don't know where these people are getting their information from. But that's it. That's it with the audio clips. The panel is open. If anybody would like to discuss their opinion inside the chat, we could talk about that. We have probably about 7 minutes left. So you want to add anything there, Briggs?
Corn is down. Corn is down all over the place. I noticed. They're not growing it around here like they used to.
No, the cornfields are being ripped up, and China's buying the farms, and they're producing their own corn. And if the farms are producing their corn, the farmers are selling it to China.
Yeah.
And China is having that big reserve, and they're holding it. And I know it's going to happen. Ethanol is made from corn, and that's also feed. If you own a farm, the feed, somebody, I think I forgot who it was, but they said the bale of hay, all right, is double what it used to be last year. So if you're used to paying, $6-7 a bale for a hay, now you're paying $12 or $14 for one bale of hay. So what's going to happen to the corn? The corn, if China's buying most of it, and we're in a shortage, to having that in stock for ourselves. Ethanol is made by the corn. So where's this ethanol going to be coming from? China. So therefore, we would have to purchase that corn back, or the fuel from China, to be able to, get everything cheaper. It's not going to get cheaper. Everything is going to get up higher. I see our economy going to like shit.
Well, it's like that's why I sold my one car that I owed money on. Every car I got is paid for now. They're older, but I've been saving money.
Well, all right. So here we go. The junkyard just said the round bales, the ones that you see in the plastic wrap, and they sit there for a while. So the 4x5 round bales. He said between $60 and $70. That is outrageous.
Yeah. Well, I got it. It's we're in a dilemma. It's like, but they say grow food. You can grow your own food, but you can't eat just vegetables. You need meat. It's like you need oats. You need to be able to make bread.
Yep.
I've been making my own bread for years. It's people need to start being self-sufficient. I mean,
that's what it is. And you know what the government wants us to do? The government wants us to start depending on them. I was watching another clip this morning, and it's about the currency of the American dollar. That might be another live that I do about the currency of American dollar, besides with the fuel here. Yes, they are audio clips. They are coming from the internet. Yes, I replayed them on my page, but there's a lot of people that don't know this information. This is the reason why I felt like I had to share it.
It's like right now, I don't know if you've seen them on YouTube a lot, but I see them a lot. There's these people that are making YouTube channels based on living in their van or their car. I mean, there's one woman, she lives in a Dodge Caravan, and she has a storage unit, and it's set up like a hotel. Just a second. I got to talk. If you go down to the Willawana, go to Willawana and call the dispatcher. They'll send you a T-check so you can fill that reefer. See? Yeah, but can you fill more than once a day?
I got enough to get back to the yard after I dropped it.
I was going to say, because I would just fill that with a T-check, and that way it won't come off your thing.
They pay for it.
Oh, I know. But we're only allowed to fill once a day, is what they. This has been
every 2 hours.
Oh, okay. This has been sitting here for 4 days. That's why it's empty. Oh, okay. Yeah, someone left the reefer down to a quarter tank of fuel.
Oh man,
it's still good, but you don't want to run out. But
yeah.
But no, it's like I've always been self-sufficient. I've been called cheapskate, miser, but you know something? It's like I told my niece. I got her convinced by me. I said, when I was younger, when I was her age, she's 20 years old. I said when I was 20 years old, 10 grand would last. If I guess you could take $10,000 and buy a house and on the tax sales and refurbish it, rent it out, or sell it, whatever you want. Hell, $10,000 you can't even buy a shed costs $10,000.
Yep. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna end this panel now. If you did listen to some of the audio clips, and you'd like to place a comment, put it below, and we'll try to attend to the replies on my next live. It is 9:30. I'm going to complete this show. I thank you very much, Mr. Briggs, and everybody else in the chat. So, to make this country great again, make sure you go out there and vote. Talk to you guys later. All right. Have a nice day.
Bye.